All right, welcome one, welcome all to our weekly, although it's now been semi-weekly, but our weekly podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, let me get my everything set up real quick. I am Chalk, that is Dubs,
What's up?
and that is Mr. Nye.
Hello.
And so today we have a double whammy because we were not able to do the last episode of a recap, so we're going to be covering both episode 7 and 8 today of Star Wars The Acolyte, as well as we have some little arc news and a couple other things that we'll be talking about. But to start, we'll just kind of lump them in together, 7 and 8. Naibo, take us away.
So, episode 7. I'm trying to remember back to some of that. I enjoyed it, but I felt like it was out of order compared to everything else. I feel like it should have been earlier. I do like. I'm trying to remember because I haven't rewatched it again. Episode 8 is really on my mind more because to me it was one of the better episodes. 7 is just kind of there. It shows us the reasoning why behind everything happening. And then 8 kind of really just slams it home.
And Doug?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Nye. It wasn't much to remember on the episode 7. It was, like you said, a bunch of backfill on story kind of that you should have got earlier on Saul and, him and the relationship between the two girls. I definitely agree. 8's a little bit more on my mind as well. It's more recent. It was a pretty good episode as well. I did enjoy it. I thought it was pretty good.
So in short, episode 7, for those who are unfamiliar, episode 7 shows from the Jedi perspective of what happens during the fire and why the main characters of May / Osha, why they have such resentment towards the Jedi, at least May. And it shows what kind of transpires, what the kind of dark past that Soul has. It also kind of alludes to why May kind of wants to see the destruction of at least these 4 particular Jedi. Although I would have to say, outside of Soul, I think the other 3 were just kind of innocent bystanders. They weren't really responsible for a whole lot. So I do think that they were kind of, I don't think that they were necessarily as much to blame as Soul. Soul was the one who killed one of their moms. The other 3 did not, so I don't really see how that. And then it shows that Soul has to make a pretty tough decision between, after a fight with Kilnaka, he has to pick between Osha and May. And ultimately that decision leads us down to May's, anger. She already was resentful of the Jedi. They didn't like the Jedi. They thought, Jedi were impeding on their area, which rightfully kind of so. The Jedi have a right during this time period to test any child to see if they qualify to become a Jedi, even though Soul already knows that they're too old. And he does have a quite unhealthy attachment to May and Osha. It's primarily more Osha, but he does seem to gravitate towards them more, and he blames it on the virgins. And the whole reason why they're there on this planet is to study the virgins. They don't know that this covenant exists. They're there because this planet shouldn't be sustaining life, and it is. And that's really what happens in episode 7. So we get to kind of see exactly the fire, the aftermath, all of them dying, exactly what happens. I do agree with Nye, because obviously Naibo and I have talked, and so has me and Dubs. I do agree with Nye that, and I've said it from the very beginning, I feel like once the fandom gets these episodes and they rearrange them and edit out stuff they don't like and put it together, they'll probably make a pretty good, decent 2-hour movie out of it. And with proper editing, I think that this episode here probably should have been episode 3, maybe episode 4 earlier. I think the the big fight with the Jedi and the stranger should have been a little bit later, episode 5 or 6, and then we really explored down that area. A lot of people, and I think even the directors themselves and the writers, forget that the show's called Acolyte, because we sure do watch a lot of the Jedi. We're watching a ton of stuff through the perspective of the Jedi. We're following the Jedi, even though the main character is Osha. You could argue that the main character is Soul in the way it's being presented to us. Now, I've told this to Naivo, I feel like the main character actually should have been May. May should have been the main character, and we follow May's journey, how she meets, the stranger, how she trains. It gets banged into our heads early why she doesn't like the Jedi. Then we can kind of tease over to Osha and the Jedi over there about their point of view of what they have sold to Osha. However, I think they should have followed May's story. I feel like this story was May's story to have, and not Osha.
Right, and I feel like that it's kind of like it tried to do that, but it didn't do that. Like in points, it tried to follow May. In points that it was mainly focused on Osha, and in points it was mainly focused on the Jedi trying to right this wrong that happened. So it was kind of like 3 or 4 ideas thrown together, and each episode was its own little storytelling to try to throw everything together to try to come together with a full length story. I think it, like what you're saying, it would have been better taken from. It's called the Acolyte for a reason. It should have been taken from the perspective of the Acolyte, or even through May's journey.
Right. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Japanese history at all, but before one of the revolutions, there was a group called the Wolf-Samibu, or in Japanese, it's the Shinsengumi. During the time period, they were the police. They were the actual police. But they were on the losing side of the revolution. So ultimately, in every movie that you watch, they're dictated as the bad guys because they were on the losing side of a revolution. They could have done the same thing with May. May could see the Jedi. The Jedi don't have to do anything evil or bad. You just know she's opposed to them. And that, in a few anime and movies, that would happen. The main character sitting there eating, and they see them walking around. And they're very similar. They have these very long robes, although they're blue and white. And they're walking by, and you can see that the main character is like, oh man, that's the quote-unquote police, because that's what they were at the time. The Jedi, very similar. A little more and a little less during this particular time period, but you get the idea. And they could have done that. So they could have shown that, hey, the Jedi are very present. The Jedi are here, but we're telling this story through a Sith or a Acolyte or someone who's a Darksider or someone who's opposing the Jedi, which is actually something that we've never actually seen. We always see through the perspective of the Jedi for the most part.
Correct.
Yeah, I do agree. There definitely was too many point of views at some point, for sure. It's kind of all over the place.
Which then leads us into episode 8, which we get the conclusion of May's journey for now. The conclusion of all their journeys as for now. I am a firm believer of, anybody who happens to see a red lightsaber at this time, they're going to be automatically assumed as Sith, and they will have to die from the audience standpoint. Even though they may not be Sith. The stranger even says that. He says, "You may call me Sith." He is most definitely a fallen Jedi. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Whether or not he has started to pick up training by a surprise cameo of somebody who was there later in the episode, that's been possibly alluded to, but not necessarily. So, Dubs, your thought on the episode this week?
I thought it was a good episode. We got a lot more saber duels going on, which was awesome. It's always good to see more choreography with the blades. They were pretty interested in watching the fights. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Like you said, the surprise cameo. Spoilers for those who hadn't seen it. It's coming up, but it was good. I did enjoy that. Yeah, it was a good episode all in all. There was the twist they tried to throw in there. I don't want to give away too much, but
Oh no, this is a review, so yeah, go for it.
yeah, at the end where she decides she wants to be the Sith apprentice, so to say. It looks like they're working together. They're like holding hands. That was kind of weird.
Was
But then
strange.
the bleeding of the crystal. I mean, I don't ever anybody else seen that when she sparked that saber and it started turning red. That shit was awesome. I did enjoy that. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
No.
I enjoyed the episode. I mean, I think it was a great way to end the series. It still kind of leaves it as though there could be more to come on the end, or more could be added to the end. I guess you should say. But it was really well. It was really well done. I mean, it starts off with kind of a space battle. They land on the planet, and the ending, the way she kills, it kind of alludes to, and I kind of picked this up. It kind of alludes to. He keeps telling the I can't remember his name right now, Shimmy or whatever his name is. Keeps alluding to killing a Jedi without using a weapon, and it makes you think throughout the entire series he's talking about May. But at the end, he says she can kill without using a weapon, and it's Osha that does it. She uses the Force choke on Saul and takes just a little bit of coercion from everybody in there, and she's bled the crystal. She's turned the saber red, and now she's off on another planet, beginning her journey down the dark side. So it was kind of a neat way to end the series and give you that whole, maybe it is from that perspective of the dark side the entire time. You just don't see it that way because you're seeing it through Osha's journey.
Yep. So, a few things to kind of talk about that we did gloss over here slightly. So, we get in episode 8, we arrive and they head back to where realistically
Scene of the crime.
May's life had ended. That's where May's life ended right there. Even though she didn't actually die, she lost everything. So you would assume that she herself would be quite, and she's there to finish her kind of task, finish her kind of job. She then elects kind of not to. Now what is interesting is we do get our cameo of who is widely assumed to be Darth Plagueis, who is Palpatine's master. Now, why is Darth Plagueis there? That's the real question. Why is Plagueis there? Does Plagueis have an apprentice? Kind of like during the time when Plagueis' apprentice was Palpatine. Palpatine was training Darth Maul. So the whole idea of the rule of two isn't a real rule. It is a real rule, but it's not. Most of them, they usually have somebody that they're training to help kill their master, and they go along with it. And all of a sudden now they're the two, and that's just the kind of the way the Sith usually always operate. My feeling is Plagueis is around because he's in search of something. And what is he in search of? Well, the Jedi are also in search of something. The Jedi go to this Virgins. They're trying to figure out how life is being sustained. We know that Plagueis studies. He wants immortality. He's trying to figure out how to not die. Said so in episode 3, through the Tale of Tarth Plagueis the Wise. So, something like that, something that's living in an area that should not have life, would be very intriguing to Darth Plagueis. I believe that at this time, Darth Plagueis is still very much an acolyte himself, and Darth Tannerus is around, which is his master. And why I say this, it does seem like, although this show has been getting a lot of heat, Hedlund actually has been paying attention to some parts of the extended universe. And a planet in the Outer Rim has heavy cortosis deposits is where Plagueis kills his master. And it seems like we are possibly at that planet. If he doesn't do it now, he may do it later. Now, is he just watching? Is he watching the stranger? Is he gonna think maybe this might be my next or current apprentice? Palpatine would be. He probably won't be born for another 40. If my math is right, another 40 years. So Palpatine's not even in the mix at the moment. So he's very well probably looking. Maybe he's training, but we don't really know. There's also a theory out there, a little fun theory, that the stranger, I keep forgetting his actual name, he has wounds on the back, right? Some people are speculating maybe Plagueis healed him. His old master, because it appears that he was a fallen Jedi, and the one woman, the Malarian, was his master, was surprised to see him alive. Well, why would you? There's only one reason why you'd be surprised to see them alive. You think that they're dead.
Yeah, I think the way his scars on his back look kind of reflect like a whip saber lash from. Didn't she have the saber that was the whip?
She
So I
did.
mean, it's potential setup for later. Like a little montage of a fight between them where she thought she took him out, and that's why she was surprised.
Yeah, I mean,
And then you never know.
yeah, it's kind of like almost like the way she's portrayed his master. And I can't remember her name right off the top of my head either. But the way she's portrayed is almost like she's a dark Jedi in the temple, because the way everything seems to be a conspiracy every time it's around her. Well, we have that with the senator coming into her and questioning everything. And then at the end, where she's at the council and she lays, ultimately all the blame goes towards Saul, because we can't let it be known that the Sith are there.
Genius. It is
Yes.
secretly genius.
Yeah.
From both a writing perspective and like watching it. Like someone has to take the fall. Like there's a lot of Jedi who have died. Someone has to take the blame.
Right. And with him dying on the planet where the actual incident occurred, it's kind of like he went back to the scene of the crime to end his own pain, more or less. Because that's how it's portrayed. That's how it's presented to the Senate. So it's interesting. A great way to end it, great way to put because it's hinted at a full investigation of the Jedi. Why do the Jedi, have all this power, but they can't control, they pretend to control everything but emotion. And yet we have this outburst, or it's foretold as an outburst. And this is the reason why Soul is investigation's over. And when this is how his crime spree has ended. the one that had this emotional outburst, is now taking his own life on this planet.
And it makes sense to blame him because A, you can't interview somebody who's no longer alive. So that's easy to do. And B, when he finally leaves, he never comes back. He's gone, and then all of this stuff ends up happening. All the Jedi die. He's now out journeying, with May, who thinks he's Osha, all that stuff, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
So it's actually smart that happened, and everybody and their brother was throwing a fit about Kiad Mundi. Well, Kiad Mundi never is aware that there's a fallen Jedi or a Sith. However, the one thing I did not like was, again, the Jedi, the Malorian, the green woman, forget her name, at the very end goes to speak with Yoda. Now, if we're going to speak with Yoda, it's fine that Yoda doesn't sense any of this going on. However, he would at this age, he's 700, 800, somewhere around there, 750, something like that. I think he would probably be quite adept at the Force by now. And if he can feel what happens during Order 66, I'm surprised he didn't feel what happened with the other Jedi. They didn't openly state that there's a large dark side presence on that map, or on the planet. But if they're going to make it seem like Yoda was aware of this, I don't know how I feel about that personally. I don't think that part of the episode was required to tell the story.
No.
Nah, I agree. I think they just did it for shock value, kind of a deal. Like, oh, it was Yoda.
Exactly.
Like, whoa. Yeah, I don't think it added anything to it at all.
No, to me, it's just kind of one of those plays to just try to kind of make it be real Star Wars, because you've added in a real Star Wars Jedi Master into the mix type thing.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it was necessary, because even they said from the beginning, you won't see any action from any of these people. And to hold that to the truth, there's not really any action. You have a small cameo of Qui-Gon, and then you have Yoda's head.
Right.
The back of it. And again, Kiad Mundi doesn't really do anything other than just kind of sit here and like, oh, okay, kind of deal. So that's fine. Going back to what Dub said, it was the very first time on screen that we got the canonization of somebody actively bleeding a lightsaber.
That was awesome.
For those of you who don't understand, when you go and you become a Jedi, the Kyber crystals call to you, and usually you'll go to Ilum. You might go to Dantooine, but you'll go to a place where you can acquire a Kyber crystal. It's part of a test. It's part of the test that you have to do to become a Jedi. And you find your crystal, and you then build your lightsaber, and that's when you go from being a Jedi initiate or student to more or less a Jedi Padawan. It's one of the very first trials that they have. Well, Sith do not have access to those caves. They're Jedi caves. So there's two different ways of getting a red Kyber crystal. You would make a synthetic crystal, or a fake one, obviously, or if you were lucky enough, I was going to show you this one, but this one's purple, or if you somehow acquired a crystal, you would imbue it with hate or emotion, and you would make the crystal bleed, thus turning the crystal red. And the counterpart, if you heal a red crystal, it turns it white. That's why Ahsoka's sabers are white. She healed red Kyber crystals. But for the first time to see it, and you can kind of see it still battling a little bit, almost poetry in motion of May's good and bad, and then it's just all bad. It just takes over.
Yep.
because regardless of what
you mean
any of the
OSHA.
actors do
Yeah,
say,
OSHA's.
right, OSHA, regardless of what any of the actors do say, you know, some of them outside of the show said that, you know, it's point of view, you know, like good, bad. No. George Lucas flat out said, Sith are bad, dark side is bad, light side is good.
Right.
And
Right.
so that just kind of seals her her actual fall. She was a failed Jedi apprentice. He never really became probably a full-fledged Padawan, and she failed. And now it looks like she's going to start training, and it's going to be interested what they do with Chimere and OSHA if they get a season 2. And for the first 5 episodes, I was against it, and now I kind of want one.
I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of her training in the dark side. I mean, she did get pretty strong really fast by putting that helmet on. She tapped into some of that power and was getting to that dude till he took the helmet off and saved himself there for a minute. But you could definitely tell, like, when she taps into her anger, she gets way stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, we always say the dark side of the Force is more powerful, but it's based on your hatred. So that's how it's fed. I can see it being more powerful. It's definitely harder to control. You let it take you over.
Right.
Well, Lucas came out in a recent interview. It was actually through Ahmed Best, who plays Jar Jar Binks, and he talked about the dark side. The dark side gives you that power, but it's easy. It's easy to get it, and that's why people who fall do. And that perfect balance is the light side, because you choose not to. You actively are fighting that want, that, like, you know, you have $1,000 sitting right here, or you have $500 every week. Which one do you gotta pick? You gotta pick the 1,000. It's easy. It's right there. Just take it. And so that's kind of what, that's exactly what Ahmed Best said that George Lucas talked about with that. One thing I found quite interesting, Nye, you may have picked it up, Dubs, you wouldn't have because you haven't really seen a bunch of it, but the twins mirrored Valkorian's twins in the Old
Yes.
Republic.
Yes.
And Valkorian's twins, he sends them, there's the Emperor at the time, Valkorian, he has a twin set of boys, and he sends them out, and they take a rampage on the galaxy, an absolute rampage. Well, Valkorian really only wants one, and Valkorian really only wants, there's one that's more battle hardened, and then there's one that's more delicate and softer. Valkorian really wants the softer one, and ultimately, through his own shunning of the kid and the battle scars that the kid inflicts and stuff. What? 1 minute. I'll do it when I'm done. With all that, his other son becomes so enraged that in his blindness, he kills his brother. And then it's only at that time does Valkorian see that, okay, what you were supposed to be has now come true. Your air, your rage, all of it, now you are ready to take the next step. And I believe that Chimere was waited for OSHA to do something very similar. She didn't kill May, but she was the one that finished what May was supposed to have started.
Right. Right. And that's kind of leading back to what I was saying. Like, he kept saying, you know, the entire time he kept saying, until you can kill without a weapon, until you can kill without a weapon.
And we assume that he's talking about
May.
May the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of how it's played out. And then, you know, he says right there at the end, she can kill without a weapon. And it's OSHA that does it. So it's like he has, just like you said, and I'm not sure was trying to think where um, the twins, his name just slipped my mind, the male twins would fall in this timeline. As long as I know it's going to be way before this,
Oh yeah, way before.
but so that would almost be kind of a knowledge there as well. Whether he would know that or not, I don't know, because it would be way ancient history. But the Jedi seem to thrive on teaching the ancient history to make so you don't make those same mistakes.
It'd probably be one of those things where it would be such a unbelievable legend that you just wouldn't believe.
Right.
Same thing like Revan. Revan would be such an unbelievable legend that you couldn't understand. Like you would think a lot of it was BS.
Right. Kind of like Beowulf.
Anakin.
The Times of Beowulf.
I mean, Anakin. To be honest,
Yeah, Anakin.
Like-
yeah.
Anakin for people who are in the quote unquote real life, Jesus, right? Anakin is space Jesus. You know,
Space Jesus.
all the stuff that he did, all the stuff that they claimed that Jesus did was so unreal that you can't fathom it and you can't believe it. And so that would be going back to what I was saying about the Jedi teaching them good and bad. And the one thing I do like is it's still playing on the fact that the Jedi are not perfect saints. They are after self-preservation first, and then everything else second. The Jedi, the whole, not individually, but the corporation, if you will.
Right.
Which is why I can see certain Jedi, and like I was talking to Chalk the other night, just in the two of us. I started watching the Jedi Tales, and I can see where
fantastic show.
Yeah, and I can see where Dooku starts to fall, and I can kind of see it from his perspective, where he's a Jedi and everything's been taught this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and he starts to see things from a different perspective. So he starts doing things a little more dark and a little more different, not just to self-preserve, but to kind of help others along the way. And then eventually it turns to hatred of the Jedi, and that's why he falls from the light side.
And it shows it's a very small. It's very small. The very finite pop that the Jedi, that a very small string that the Jedi are tight roping. I mean, you're all good all the time, but sometimes that all good is actually bad, and you know it is. And a lot of the Jedi just continue with it, and then the other ones fall, and again, bad Jedi become bad Jedi. They're just bad is bad.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, that's what's great about it. You have good and you have bad. There is no middle. There is no gray Jedi, not in this timeline.
Right. Even though there should be.
Well, should and is are different.
Yeah.
The gray Jedi were cool, but as of now, there is no gray Jedi until there is a gray Jedi.
Right. Right.
But I again, all in all, I would have to say that although I thought that this series was a strong 3 out of 10, I would say it's probably a 4 to a 5 out of 10 in my opinion. It's not great, but I do feel like if possible, if they allow it to go for another season or 2, it might secretly be great. It might be some of the best Star Wars we get to see. I feel like for whatever reason, and I was guilty of this as well, they jumped on, the fandom jumped on it very aggressive, very early. And yeah, episode 3, nobody really liked episode 3. We're gonna exclude episode 3 from the conversation. But
there was no episode 3. It went 1, 2, 4.
Exactly. Well, and honestly, you could rip out episode 3 from it and you wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's kind of like Dubs, the early Boruto. When Boruto first came out, a lot of people hated it. And because, it's slow, we're back in school again. We just came off the Ninja War from Naruto. I mean, we just got to watch better than Prime Madara fight Prime everybody. And now we're like back in it slow and it's childish and da 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 da. And I kept saying back then, oh, hey, just you got it. Hey, the new series, they're starting over. They're trying to grab a new audience as well as appease the old audience. It's a hard thing to juggle. And they had the same thing. You're trying to build a new audience with the Acolyte, as well as trying to make a historically angry group of fans known as Star Wars fans, trying to make them happy. Short of just having Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen as Anakin, just walk around the screen, you're not going to make the fans happy.
I mean, true. I mean, I had my ups and downs with it. It ended really well. I like to say I'm one of those. Yeah, I mean, I like to say I'm one of those Star Wars fans that I mean, I've read. I can't say I've read all of the old canon books because there was so many out there. I don't know how anybody could read all of them. I'm sure somebody has. I don't know, but I've read a lot of them. I've read a lot of the newer stuff. So I like to think I could. I mean, I don't want to say I'm completely non-biased. I do have my favorites, but I like to watch it. I have an opinion on some things. Some things I wish they could do different or do better. I mean, but at the end of the day, I like to say it's Star Wars. I may not be happy the way some of it went, but it's still Star Wars, and I'm going to watch it.
I dare to say it has maybe some of the best lightsaber fights we've ever seen.
True.
Ever. Regardless if it's animation, Obi-Wan versus Anakin on episode 3, some of the best lightsaber scenes we've ever seen. And some of the best fighting we've ever seen. The hand-to-hand, or Terraskasi for in Star Wars, the hand-to-hand in this series by far is better than Jude Law's, I think that's his name. I could know, different guy, doesn't matter. Guy who played Vision, better than his character in the Solo movie. He was a Terraskasi fighter.
Yes.
And
yes.
the Terraskasi in this, just the hand-to-hand, that's all it is. Kung Fu, however you want to look at it.
Well, and
very
good. Someone coming from the old Star Wars galaxies where Terraskasi was my character's thing, that was what I took, and that was because it was seeing it on live action in this. I was ecstatic for that because it's like, boom, this is everything that I trained my character to do in a video game, and basically here it is in real life on the screen. And I love that. I love that martial arts style.
I thought it was cool. It's something that we never seen. And frankly, when like the one or two times Obi-Wan did not have his lightsaber, he was relatively helpless. Soul was not helpless without a saber.
Right.
Like, it was nice to see him throwing hands. So that was really cool to see.
Oh yeah.
It was awesome. And I've said from the very beginning, like their robes are awesome. I like their robes. I don't have Jedi robes. I have never bought Jedi robes, but and they probably won't be my first that I would go out and buy. But I'm just saying, I did like them. I thought it was okay. We're getting the point that this is the High Republic. It's the end. It's towards the end of the High Republic, but this is the High Republic, and they're the Jedi are supposed to be a little bit more chin high, nose high kind of deal.
They haven't been taken down a notch yet. It happened several times before the complete fall of the Jedi.
Right. And then, and there, as we know, there's 9 movies addressing that. But
Oh yeah.
outside of that, you know, that's it. And you know, if I again A through F, I would have to give this either the series a D plus or a C minus, somewhere around there. Which is, I mean, it was just okay. But the thing that I liked about it was it gave us a reason to BS about Star Wars once a week. We got to watch something that was new content for Star Wars once a week. And whether we loved it, and there were some episodes that I think we all three of us loved, or we, you know, not so loved it. You know, there's probably a couple episodes or a couple parts that we didn't like so much. I hope that all in all they do get greenlit for a second season. I just hope they follow the Acolyte and not the Jedi.
Right. Because there's a whole lot more you could do in the universe following the Acolyte. You don't have to follow the Jedi everywhere. Yeah, you're going to have an occasional run-in with a Jedi. And for canon to still follow through, you know that Jedi's not going to come off the screen in any kind of good condition.
Right.
Until...
So you honestly don't even have to use them, to be
Exactly.
honest.
You don't have to. I mean... yeah, I mean, there's the whole... The Red Sun. There's the whole pirate gangs out there. There's all kinds of different things that you could run down and not ever have to have a Jedi interaction from this point ever.
The origins of the Knights of Ren, even though they were terribly used in the movie.
Yes.
But, you know, some people have said, you know, or talked about, it just wouldn't make sense. But hey, that this guy, the stranger, is possible. You know, he could possibly be a founder, original Knights of Ren. And it turns out that even the Knights of Ren that Kylo ends up commanding is an offshoot covenant of the original Ren. So even them, they were just, you know, not the real deal.
Right.
All gamer, what is going on? So that's all about I have for the episode. Doug, Nye. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
So, I mean, if we're still doing the grading scale, you gave it a C minus. That's about where I would put it. I mean, you got points that would bring it up to a B, but then drop it down with certain other things to a D. So, C minus, good C maybe. Yeah, that's where I would go with it.
Doug, what about you? Seeing how I temporarily lost you for a second.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, I was just saying the same thing. I'd say it was an average season at best. You know, had great fight scenes, some good moments, some not so good moments. But yeah, I'd probably say about a C as well.
With, you know, the kind of crappy part about the time period in which they made this is you can't just have these Sith go out and just murk Jedi for 2 seasons without nobody noticing.
Right.
And then they kind of like at the end, you're gonna think that lady's gotta tell Yoda the truth, right? Like, so you're kind of you already think that red flag's gonna be raised, so it's already on thin ice.
Unless she's self-preservation and she's telling him that her old Padawan has potentially fallen, because at this time, just because you fell, they're not going to scream Sith.
Right.
They have no reason to.
Yeah. Right now they have no indication. They're not. Either they're not as in tune with the Force, or they're so in tune with the Force that they're not feeling this little shimmer over here that could or could not be.
Well,
Sith or
that, and you know, however old
it
Yoda
also
is,
leaves the door open potentially for her to, you know, kind of lie to Yoda, you know, also, and try to keep that just, hey, Saul did it all, you know.
Yep.
And then season 2, maybe she gets wiped out, and that's how they wipe that plot line out.
Plus, during Yoda's whole extremely long lifetime, there's never been, for that we know, a Sith. So why would you think that there's one now?
Right.
Right. So I did the math. Yoda should be about 760.
Yeah, so 750, 760. So, again, for 760 years, obviously we know that the first 50 to 80 years, Yoda's still very much an infant because of Grogu. We learned that.
Right.
But still, his whole entire lifetime, there hasn't been a Sith. And there's not one until episode 3 to Yoda.
Right. To you, yeah.
And we also see that you could have the strongest dark side force user in the same room, and if Yoda doesn't detect it, there is no chance they detect Chimera. Obviously, the helmet did something because it broke off his old master's, sensing of
Right where he was
Chimera.
at. Yeah, the
So,
location.
Kind of like a Magneto effect kind of deal
Yeah.
with Professor
Right.
X. So you have that too. I just, again, as much as I love watching him murk them Jedis, it just does not make sense for season 2 or 3, if they have them, for us to see a bunch of more Jedi get murked. It doesn't
Right.
doesn't make sense. Now, if this
Doesn't
was
make
set
sense.
1,000 years into the past, where Sith were prominent throughout the galaxy, now I'm really in.
Right. Yep. So yeah, there's no need for a mass Jedi slaughtering. I mean, for the beginning season to get to the point of where we are with what we are with OSHA and everything, I get it, because May's out there, and it's almost like May is out there doing the bidding, trying to get OSHA attention, even though she kind of doesn't know she's there. She's trying to get her attention and trying to stir that up in her to fulfill whatever prophecy she or whatever means is there, because they are, as Saul says several times, you are not sisters, you are the same person.
But interestingly, going off like what you're kind of saying, is I wonder, is May trying to get OSHA's attention, or is Chimera trying to get OSHA's attention? Is
Right.
Chimera trying to draw in this other person? And does he know that they're two but the same, and this one's stronger? Interesting thought.
Yeah,
True.
he definitely is intrigued by her, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
They all seem to be really like hyper obsessive by OSHA.
Yeah, she's the main character.
She is.
Well, and it's
she
almost
is the main
like-
character, but they
Yeah.
just seem very quick to be attached.
Oh yeah, no, most
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
Like
I
we were
mean,
talking
Saul
about
almost
earlier with
falls
Saul.
immediately in love with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Goes on this whole mission rampage just to save her.
If
Yeah.
Saul wants, I can get him an invite to the Diddler
The
tribe.
diddlers. The diddlers.
Because-
Yep.
Because there's a tribe in our Ark server called the Diddlers, and Saul, especially the very first part of the series, might be a little too friendly with Dr. Disrespect.
Yep.
So,
Flirting on that edge for sure.
yeah, I mean, he hadn't even spoken a word to this girl, and all of a sudden he's just like
Yep.
all about
Come be a
it.
Jedi.
All
Yeah, we
about
have to
it.
train her. We have to
Yeah,
bring her.
we're
we have
taking
to
her.
investigate.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
Very
She's
strange.
mine.
Very strange. And
Especially for a Jedi, like you said, that
Yeah.
we're supposed to be in control of their emotions, and they're over there,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
he's a
let's
knight
take those
at
kids.
this point.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
yeah,
been
not a
trained
for a while.
Padawan, not
Yeah.
not an apprentice, not he's a
He's a knight.
So
And and old Trinity even tells him, "Hey man, you'd have your own Padawan, but you're a little too clingy." That's not what she says, but
Mhm.
that's what she says.
In a roundabout way,
Yeah,
yep.
you be driving that freaking speeder with no windows a little bit too much. So, if we got nothing else, we are going to switch over to those of you who are hanging out here for ARC. Obviously, I'm going to be ending the stream. You do my 10-minute thing, get everything revamped, and go to ARC. However, some of you guys have been waiting for the announcement of when the servers will be connected, so you can transfer. And Yeah, that won't be on this podcast. We'll talk about it. No, I'm just joking.
Stay tuned next week.
Come back next week and find out.
Same bat time, same bat place.
Upon server restart on Saturday, so whenever server restart happens, automatic server restart of Saturday. And I think they both have different restart times, but I'm not sure. So Sunday morning, you will be able to transfer items and dinos. If you want to, you can download your character, which means you just transfer your character back and forth. I'm going to like not to do that because I have 2 characters already that are relatively high level, and I don't really foresee the need for myself personally to do that. But Sunday is going to be the day. I already did the back end stuff already. I just have to hit go on Scorched Earth and everything will be turned on upon server restart. Now, with that being said, we are about 2 months away or so from Aberration. I don't know if you boys have bought the Bob's DLC. If you haven't, not a big deal.
Yet.
If you're going to, great. And if you're not going to, not a big deal. But not this Saturday, but the Saturday, the 27th, in Scorched Earth, we are going to be doing a poker tournament at the saloon that Silenced Hill has made. So, and you can gamble whatever you want in there. This is Scorched Earth.
Nice.
So, if you have dinos and cryopods, if you have metal, if you have just fiber, whatever it is you can afford to bring in and you gamble, you might lose everything. You might get some pretty cool dinos out the grip. We're also going to be doing a base showcase, and the winner of the base showcase is going to get a 200 stack of element, as well as 100 stack of the best kibble. I forget whichever the kibble is. So base designs. So if you're in a big tribe, hey, 200 stack of element, that may not be a whole lot because each piece takes quite a bit. But if you're a single player, that might be very intriguing. Hey, 200 stack of element. Hey man, I already unlocked some tech. I don't have the element for it. I can get, some of my tech buildings going, as well as the best kibble. The best kibble gets close to insta-taming any creature. So those are the things that are coming up. Also, I'm gonna post this on in Discord, but we're looking at August the 10th. God, I can't believe we're almost in August already. August the 10th is going to be the finale of the art competition for the mouse pad. If you guys have not submitted something, submit something. Arc has photo mode. You can go into single player and you can pause the game to get the camera just right. You could do it on the servers. It could be anything. It could be not even Arc related. We're talking about Star Wars. It could be something Star Wars. It could be something, anything. Just submit a design and we'll go through it. Dubs had a good idea. He wants the 3 of us to do a little collab photo for us in Arc. I thought, so this was Dubs' idea.
boys.
This was Dubs' idea. Dubs' idea to do that, and make her for like a submission. My addition to this idea, I think you might like it, Nye.
It's a good one.
I'll be in the center, and my guy will just be standing there, just regular. And Dubs will be on the right, and he'll do whatever emote. He can be like, yeah, or whatever he wants to do. And you and I can be on the left. And I want you to do the crying emoji, because I'm going to put a dead dinosaur in front of you, because you like to kill everything. It won't be big. Maybe it'll be huge. I don't know yet. But I do think
a big old
would be
Giga.
funny.
Giant Giga dead right in front of him.
It's a conspiracy, man.
Like a Naibo the Dino
I will
Killer.
never forget. I will not forget. We caught you that 145 Therizino, and we didn't have kibble. We only had freaking, and it took forever to get into the trap. It took forever. It was right when the server just opened. I think Goose may have been the only person on the server besides us at that time.
Yeah.
And the next day, you used the quality of life gun and fucking killed it. And
I was trying to transfer stuff from that to that, and I swear you said you got to use the quality of life gun. Cool. I hit it, and it goes poof, and I went, well, that's not what's supposed to happen.
Oops.
And it just says right above, Naibo killed level 209 Therizino. And I'm like, how?
And I didn't want to say a thing.
I literally, on the island where my base is now, I literally had one platform with 2 boxes. That was my base. I had Blue, my Pteranodon, and that was it. And we got the biggest, baddest thing that we could at that time for Nye, and that sucker lasted about 7 hours.
Nice.
And he's like, how did that die? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. What died?
It died when?
They said, Nye, what just happened? So yeah, that was pretty good. And then you decided to
I
build
was trying to be smart.
You decided to build a spike wall and park your Carno on top of it. Your Carno did not like that.
Hey, he parked himself on top of that. I just put the wall up.
You know, he said he's seen that you must be an abusive master. He said, "Nope, I'm out. This world is not long for me."
Just yeeted himself right on it.
He did. And then your frog ran away from you. It went swimming with a shark. It got eaten.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not talk about that. I have one left.
The only other person who has similar luck to you is Goose, because he hasn't been on, and all his tames on Scorched Earth have died.
Oh no.
Like I'll log in and I'll be like, he had one called Intruder. Intruder was just killed by Sabretooth. It's like, where's Intruder? Oh, Intruder's like 2 mountain ranges over. How did it get way over there? Whatever.
Yeah, he did.
It is what it is at this point. All right, boys. Until
I'm
next
taking
week.
my basketball and going home now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Until next week, if we're gonna continue just podcasting it up, we can continue podcasting it.
Let's do it.
But if not, well, I mean, obviously not. But until next week, and let me pull this up here so I can do it right. That has been Naibo. And that has been Doug.
Later.
Of course, I have been Chalk. I'm going to go ahead and kill this stream. I think my Xbox is currently on. Hopefully I'm not in game. That would be a bummer, because I'd be dead by now. And so I'm going to kill the stream, kind of relax for a little bit, jump on, do a little late night quick stream. It's going to be a whole lot of nothing, just trying to level up to 89 so I can make the industrial cooker.
Nice.
And so I can start making kibble. And I made a crocodile for you. And
Yes.
we will catch you guys next time.
Later.
Later.